at you. Fix your face. You're dealing with the public, handling people's food.
Stop, please.
Oh, you can pipe down and all standing there like an ostrich. People. Can't stand them. Cheerful, grinning people.
Mum, I'll see you in a bit.
Where do you think you're going?
For a walk.
People are going to accuse you of loitering with intent.
Your sister called me.
Who?
Chantel.
I know who my sister is, thank you very much. When are you going to settle down?
Why, you have somebody for me?
Yes, Jesus.
At least he was a single man. Do you want to come to the flat on Sunday? The girls would like to see you.
You know I've got health issues. I might spend the day lying in bed.
She makes everything about her. She's rude, man.
I've been harassed by people all day. I'm sick to death of it. I just want it to all stop.
Why are you so angry? Why can't you enjoy life?
I don't know.
You worry me, you know.
Pansy, what's going on?
I'm so lonely.
What are we going to do about it? I don't understand you, but I love you.
And her over there with that fat baby, parading it around in the little outfit, not dressed for the weather, nah, with pockets. What's the baby got pockets for? What's it gonna keep in its pocket?
Hi everyone, Carolyn for Carolyn's YouTube channel and podcast. I love this film. I saw it at TIFF and I actually spoke to some Black women and a few Black men with Caribbean and West Indian heritage after I saw the film. I'm Barbadian. So yeah. I love hearing the different West Indian accents and dialects in this film. But something that is also intimately familiar with me being Caribbean is how we deal with grief or don't deal with grief. And the way we express grief is actually through anger. You know, like in the theater, people laughed at her anger and I laughed too. But then the switch happened and her anger stopped being funny because I saw it as grief. And then I also saw it as fear. Like I see Pansy as being filled with fear, you know? So I want you to talk about first, Mike, I want you to talk about observing people to be able to write characters who express grief in such, I think, intense, but also internal ways, because fear is also grief and grief is also fear and anger. And for you, Marianne, can you talk about that switch that happens where her anger stops being funny and it starts being devastating? Because there's something that you do, I think, in your performance that just really solidifies like how sad Pansy is as a character and she isn't able to express that. So can you talk about working through that? And for you, Michele, talk about Chantel as being the person who has to watch her sister struggle with being afraid and being sad and being filled with fear and can't confront her with that because she knows that Pansy's going to react in a way that's not going to be helpful. So she just can only watch and be there for her. So I want three of you to talk about just this aspects of fear and anger and like watching a character like work through it. So Mike, you can go first. We'll just talk about structuring this film and this character about fear and grief.
I mean, people have said to me, you're not, but people have said, so obviously what you've done is you've made it sort of funny to start with, and then you've, in the kind of second act of the film, you've stopped it being funny and it's gone. And that is not the case, because life is comic and tragic. And when you're talking about, it's interesting what you're saying. You're isolating grief, you know, in a way, it's a complex and compound thing. I mean, what's tragic in this story about what's happening to these characters, especially to Pansy, is there from the get-go. It's there. It's always been there, and it's there. The way we look at them, the things that are happening, are inevitably tragic and hilarious at the same time. And the same, so to answer your question about the structure of the thing, I mean, again, you know, one is looking at, I mean, the structure is about the order of which things happen and how A affects B and so on, which is all anyone could ever say about structure. But the structure isn't a function of a view of stability or mental instability or any of those things, because all those things are on the go all the time, basically. If that answers, that's not quite what you're asking me to talk about, but what you are, I think, asking me to talk about isn't something that is quite as straightforward as that. I mean, obviously, the film has a structure because that's my job, is to give it one. But the structure is an organic structure. It's a function of what is happening psychologically.
Oh gosh, right.
Yeah. And can you remind me a bit of the question? Because I think it's to do also with the fear and the
yeah, just like how you went about working through her fear and her anger, because I saw them as two very distinct emotions that comes through very differently in the way she speaks. You know, there's the aggressive and then there's the defensive. So I saw a lot of her reactions as more as being defensive, like she's trying to stop people from attacking her, so she attacks first. You
That's
know,
right.
which I actually kind of relate to a lot because I used to be very much like that.
Okay. I think we first have to kind of explain the way in which we work, which is very organic. Do you know what I mean? The characters are finitely created. So when, for example, we're in character and we're exploring certain things, you're not thinking, oh, I'm doing fear now, she's afraid. Do you know what I mean? Or she's angry. It just really organically happens with the characters and the interactions.
Because they're real.
Because they're real. They become very real. So, gosh.
Yeah, I think by the time we get to the point at which we are doing the scenes for the film, you know, there's been so much history and backstory and work that's been done about the relationships that you're seeing, you know, in the family, that yeah, it's not that you're thinking, oh, I'm reacting to, or my character is reacting to this. It's this fear or this grief. It's become their ongoing relationship is kind of morphing and changing as they are both going through the grief. So it is very real in that respect. It's that sort of, and like in any family, you are going through a series of different sort of aspects within the family. So we know that, people have just gone through Thanksgiving and what that means to all those people around that table. Everyone's having a kind of different experience based on what happened in the last year and the phone conversation that they had and who died in the last year and who's getting married and what, you know what I mean? It's very much like that in, creating these relationships with Mike. Yeah.
I mean, I think at some level, it's worth just logging the fact that, I mean, obviously, conventionally, in a huge amount of work on movies and indeed on plays, in fact, I would say the norm is actors, one way or another, do very often, if not extremely often, think about the action that they're playing, think about the mood that they are expressing, thinking about the mood they want to convey to the audience at a particular moment. But that's what Marianne and Michele have just been talking about, is that that's not what happens at all in this context, because we've created these characters in such a rounded and organic way and real way that the complexity of the actor does all the work. My job is obviously to distill it and structure it into a dramatic, cinematic form. But the job of the actor in this context is not to think, what action shall I play? What emotion shall I isolate? And so on and so forth. It's a different Therefore, it doesn't. That aspect of your question sort of doesn't really apply to this film, and therefore, in some way, if you think the film succeeds in being a successful depiction of real people, then that's got something to do with it.
No, like I think you guys, you answered it and I think you did succeed tremendously because it is one of my favorite films for the year. But also, I'm just like these women. But thank you so much.
Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you.